welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. Today, I'm joined again with Dan Wiseman. Dan, how are you doing, mate?
Good to be back, mate. Thanks for covering me on the Matty Cash signing. I would have loved to have been there to talk to you with you about that one, but birthday duty's called. Sorry that you had to go solo on that one. On a busy day as well, wasn't it? You managed to squeeze that in. You were going up to Chef, weren't you?
Yeah, I had to help the girlfriend move in, and do you know what? I thought I was going to be late. I actually ended up being there like only 2 minutes after them. In fairness, they were coming from Suffolk, so I had more time to play with. But yeah, thankfully we got that. Nice birthday present for you as well, Dan. Matty Cash signing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Finally had a player to talk about. Obviously, it was a much shorter one, but all transfer videos do well, but that one's on like 6K, which is mental. So thank you guys for watching that. It was, albeit very rushed from myself. So hopefully in the future, we won't be caught off guard like these. It's frustrating because a lot of the players, obviously we're doing a transfer Rumour podcast now. A lot of these players like Cash have been linked for a while. Watkins, Benrahma, they're not going away. If we do eventually sign one of the two, we've had all this time to prepare, but we've done it before where we've prepared these videos for you guys and the players haven't signed. And it's, I don't want to say like a waste of our time because, you know, we like making this kind of content, but if we're not signing a player, it becomes a bit problematic. So you have to try and be quick and on it. Thankfully, Dan and I haven't really been doing too much thanks to coronavirus, lockdown, quarantine. You know, we're working a fair bit at the moment, so that's why these podcasts have, not been as regular as we would have liked. But yeah, we're just trying to get this content out for you guys. We've got another Transfer Rumour Mill podcast. Not as many rumours. You know, it's starting to slow down as the season's approaching, Dan, which kind of concerning because we've only signed one player. You know, Matty Cash, obviously great signing. I guess we can talk a bit about Cash before we get into the main sort of crux of the podcast. It's a lot of money for Matty Cash, but then I was looking at Newcastle are linked with Jamal Lewis for 14 million, and I'd say they're probably about the same ability. So I don't think Villa have been mugged off here particularly, Dan.
No, absolutely not, mate. I think you've got to take into the fact he's 23, he's English. He was not Forest Player of the Year in a season which I did think they were going to get promoted at one point. He's got a bundle of energy. He seems to have a cannon on him as well. When you look at the goals that he scored, some of them really, really impressive when he gets into the final third, and he's got a great shot on him. And I think when you consider the energy that he brings to the game, and just how happy and delighted, we saw his whole family was at the contract signing and stuff like that. And I think when you consider everything that he's going to bring to this team, the fact he's English, the fact he's 23, one of the standout fullbacks in the Championship last season, I don't think it's a bad price at all.
No, and I think we mentioned it in the other podcast. You got to compare that to that 18 million we've paid for Matt Target. English fullbacks are just at a premium. Kyle Walker went for the best part of £40 million to Manchester City, I believe. So, even Kieran Trippier was linked with a £25 million move to us. So when you look at that, 10 million's knocked off that. Trippier's obviously an aging player, a very good player as we've spoken about in the podcast, but there's much more of a ceiling with Matty Cash. So it makes sense, really. It fits into what the club are trying to do. And we've only signed one player. Understandably, people are getting frustrated. We're recording this on the 7th of September. The season starts in 5 days. Obviously, we've got an extra week on that. But we've got another 28 days on the transfer window, pretty much. So I have no doubt that players will get signed. I think one thing that is starting to be spoken about a bit more on Twitter is that people are realising that the wage structure isn't allowing us necessarily to get as many of these deals through. Now, Christian Perslow said at the Villa Trust AGM on their podcast about it, 3 years in the Championship is crippling for any teams. And you can have rich owners, you can have as much money pumped into the club as humanly possible, but you've got to abide by these rules. And I don't see Villa. I think we've been creative in terms of getting around some rules in terms of selling the ground, things like that. But when it comes to FFP, I know Manchester City got away with it, but they're going to make an example of a club like Villa, absolutely. So it's important that we follow by these rules and maybe sort of manage our expectations when it comes to signings. I know we were linked with Rodrigo de Paul a few weeks ago. It's probably just a flash in the pan. Dan and I got very excited about that. He's a player who we've spoken about before. But them kind of signings, probably aren't going to happen. So Villa are going to have to be so much smarter about how they do their business, which I guess is important when we're looking at some of the players that we're going to talk about in this podcast, Dan. And the kind of main rumour that isn't going away, from any sort of media, whether that be Villa, United, just Premier League. A lot of people seem to know about this. Is Sergio Romero coming to Aston Villa? Now he is. It's an interesting one, really, because he's. If you ask United fans, they'd probably say he's actually better than David De Gea, but I don't know whether that's more of a comparison on how poor David De Gea has been. But this is a man who, in I believe 64 games, has kept 36 clean sheets, albeit with a much better defence and against some inferior opposition in Europa League games. Nevertheless, playing in a European competition, you can't take that away from him. Romero seems like a really smart bit of business, Dan, and it looks like another bit, like Reina and Heaton, is a player that's going to add this competition and stability in a position that I don't necessarily think needs it, but I'm certainly not going to turn my nose up at this kind of a deal, Dan, especially for £8 million.
Well, you're absolutely right there, mate. I think that's where you've got to look at it. It's just the reliability that he's brought to Manchester United in those, because that, as we've seen from De Gea, who, look, David De Gea hasn't had a great season. I don't buy into this sort of, he's finished. He's still got goalkeeping is a game of confidence. David De Gea is still one of the best goalkeepers in the world. If he has his mojo back and he's not worrying about him, you putting the extra pressure on his shoulders, he can still perform at an elite level. But what Sergio Romero has done is, when you actually look at Man United's successes in recent years, it's been in the cup competitions where Romero has been in goal. One FA Cup, an EFL Cup, a Europa League, and a Community Shield, a United's recent trophy haul, all whilst Romero was playing in goal. He has made just one league appearance in the last 3 seasons or something like that. But as I said, it's those cup competitions where we've seen him play. And with Dean Henderson coming back to United, it does look as though, he's going to be pushed towards the door. But, it's that experience, mate, that we're signing him for. He's almost got 100 caps for Argentina. He's played in a World Cup final. Let's not forget back in 2014. And if you look at his signing from Sampdoria on a free transfer, I think given how United have been a bit blasé with their money in recent years, I think in terms of a value for money and what they've given to the club, I think you would struggle to see a better piece of business conducted by Manchester United in the recent history than Sergio Romero on a free transfer.
Absolutely. And it seems as though whoever's scouting these goalkeepers is just fixed on an Argentinian, because at one point it was Emi Martinez. We've also been linked with Paulo Gazzaniga from Tottenham Hotspur, and obviously Romero. 3 fantastic keepers, by the way. I guess it's it's an unfortunate position, because if you're the best of the best, you're obviously you're gonna get that number 1 spot for your nation. But they've got 3 top goalkeepers there, so you've got to feel for Martinez and Gazzaniga for missing out. But yeah, I mean, on Romero, look, anyone who listens to this podcast knows we love Nyland, we love Steer. Dan loves Nyland more than anyone. But, we're talking about, this is the Premier League, this is cutthroat. And, Martinez, to speak on Martinez briefly, he has, I believe, only played 15 games in the Premier League, kept 6 clean sheets. Again, better defence than ours, but definitely very questionable, the Arsenal defence for the past 10 years. And he looks like a very good goalkeeper. Same with Gazzaniga. If I'm honest, I can't see either Gazzaniga or Martinez coming. They both want first team football, and it would be great to have them come, but I think as soon as Heaton's back, he'll be number 1. But it'll be nice to have 2 good goalkeepers compete like that. I think the thing is with Romero as well, he can play second fiddle to De Gea, even third fiddle to Dean Henderson at United, and still comfortably be Argentina's number 1, because he has been. So, if Romero's coming, I'd imagine there are going to be certain promises that have to be made that he is going to be number 1. For a certain amount of time, he's going to get this amount of games. He's still very young. He's 33. He's easily got another 4 years in the game for the position he plays in. So it's not really a surprise that he's looking for a move away. Dean Henderson on 120 grand a week, that is mental. Like, I understand it. Dean Henderson's a fantastic keeper, questionable guy, but a very fantastic keeper. So, I'm not going to complain if Villa sign any of these players. I think, it's a position that Villa are looking to strengthen everywhere. And I think, as we spoke about on the last podcast, people prefer it if we got a striker in first or a winger in first. As long as we get them, it doesn't really matter what order they come in, as far as I'm concerned, Dan.
Yeah, for sure, mate. And as I said this on the last podcast where I was speaking to you, mate. It wasn't the amount of goals we scored last season that was the problem. Post-lockdown, yeah, it didn't look great, but the reason that we struggled and the reason that we were in the position that we were throughout the season is because of the amount of goals that we conceded. And look, as you said, I love Jed. I think he's been given his performances in the Championship, especially in the playoffs. I think it's a shame that you can't go up and give him a chance. And it's sort of the same with Milan, because whenever he's played, he was integral to us getting to the League Cup final.
Yeah.
But some great performances, and you'd love to reward him with a bit of faith in the Premier League. But as you said, there's just no time for niceties in this league, mate. And it's a big weight when you look at what happened to the club and the struggles that were put on the club when we got relegated to the Championship. And ultimately, it's conceding goals that makes you lose games. When you're the number one for Aston Villa and you're walking out in that big stadium knowing that it ultimately falls on you to stop the goals going in, to stop Villa losing games, that's a big responsibility. And that's why I think we've seen players like Pepe Reina, players like Tom Heaton sort of shoulder that responsibility with the experience that we've had. And that's why ultimately, not just the team, and the results have benefited from those goalkeepers, but the defence as well. We saw how confident the likes of Ty and the other defenders looked when they've got such an experienced keeper behind them. And that's why I like Romero. I think the vast bank of international experience that he has, the fact he's done it all for Man United and all, Champions League, Europa League, Premier League, FA Cup, like you name it, he's played in those big games for a very big club. I think it's a similar kind of responsibility. And I think if it's about £8 million, mate, which is the fee that we've seen tossed about on social media, then that's as close to a no-brainer as they come for me.
So of the three goalkeepers that I have just touched on there, Dan, which one is the one for you? Is it, Romero's cheap? Martinez was a fee around 10 million as well. You've got to consider he's 7 years younger than Romero. Or Gazzaniga. If we can even afford the luxury of picking, who would you choose, Dan?
Well, it's a tough call, mate, and I really like Paulo Gazzaniga for one. I thought, Lloris obviously had that elbow injury last season, and Gazzaniga stepped in. He played like 25 games in all comps for Spurs last season. I mean, it wasn't the greatest Spurs season. His clean sheet record will tell you that. But I really like Gazzaniga. I really like Emi Martinez. Emi Martinez has sort of come out of nowhere, and he's a bit too fresh for me to say that definitely we can rely on him. Because we're not just looking at a goalkeeper to get us through the season, mate. This isn't another 6-month loan like Pepe Reina. This is looking forward to at least another 2-year future of Villa. And so I think if you're looking at those three goalkeepers for a keeper that we know we can rely on, is going to be safe hands, is going to instill confidence in that back line and really be a wall in front of the back of the net, then I think I'm taking, with the fee involved as well, Sergio Romero.
Take note, Villa, take note. Sergio Romero for £8 million. It's got the Dan Wiseman stamp of approval. And the Villa filler, I guess. I can't complain at that. It's a good price. He's a great keeper. And it's about that winning mentality, isn't it? And, he's won 4 trophies at United. Yeah, United have been a shadow of their former self, from the 2000s and sort of early 2010s. But you can't turn your nose at this kind of deal. They don't really get offered to you for this kind of value. When you look at other deals, we've been trying to get Benrahma 25 million, Brentford pushing for near 28 million with add-ons for Watkins. You just can't turn up a bargain like that because, if you go out and try and sign another, potentially younger or even an experienced goalkeeper from a club that doesn't need to sell, the fee's going to be more. So, deals like this will hopefully allow us to get the likes of Watkins, Benrahma in the club. Now, Watkins and Benrahma, again, it feels like we're constantly talking about them on this channel. And it's always going to be the case. But if Brentford have a good player, we're going to be linked with them because that's just how it goes. That's how the papers work. Dean Smith's worked there. We've been mugged off by Brentford many a time before. But, I mean, it seems frustrating to say the least in regards to Watkins. We'll get on to Benrahma, I think, afterwards. We can briefly talk about side, because it seems that we'd had a deal in place for around £20 million with £4 million in add-ons, and we were waiting for Brentford to sign Ivan Toney. That has happened, and Brentford have since come back, Dan, and gone, do you know what? We want 24 million, rising up to 28 with add-ons. I mean, first of all, no. Second of all, we've been here before where Brentford have held us, at gunpoint for these players. And it's really frustrating knowing how public some of our transfers are. Like last season, albeit we're under completely different, sporting director, and this is by no means a criticism of Langer. We've been linked with Watkins long before Langer came in. Everybody knows Villa are in for Ollie Watkins inside Benrahma. Everybody knows it. And it's a classic supply and demand issue where Villa need a striker. Brentford don't need to sell. So, okay, we 28 million. You can pay that if you want Ollie Watkins. And it's incredibly frustrating now. As much I really want Watkins to sign, I do. And we spoke about that on the podcast before, Dan. I don't want to say it's lazy scouting, but it's an easy one to make. And I hate the fact we're being held at gunpoint for this transfer. I'd pay the 25 million, rising up to 28 or whatever it is that is now being reported. It's just so annoying how public it is. And, we're somewhat responsible for that. We run a podcast talking about transfers, but we're not we're not the ones in the know who are breaking this news. We're just talking about it as it's being reported. But it's just so frustrating. I don't think Thomas Frank is watching our podcast going, do you know what? We can get 32 million out of these boys.
No, it's tough. It really is. Whereby, we're at a point whereby we seem to have based so much of our recruitment and pinned so many hopes on Ollie Watkins being our striker, whereby it frustrates me with the value that you can get out on the continent that we're paying these prices. Like, it was a transfer that really went under the radar, but Kevin Volland,
I was just about to say,
went to Monaco, and it was about less than 10 million euro. And he's a striker that's been banging in the Bundesliga. He's a top player moving to a top club in Monaco for about 10 million euro. And you kind of look at these deals. I know it's a completely different position and you can't really compare them, but Alan moving to Everton for about 22 million euro. I mean, the fee that we're talking for Ollie Watkins is about the same that Liverpool are talking for Thiago, for fuck's sake. And look, I love Ollie Watkins, but there's such a premium on these players. And look, I can't blame Brentford for slapping that price tag on him, because as you said, when they're aware of all the media speculation, they're aware of how badly we seem to want Ollie Watkins. Why would they go, you know what, we'll let you off, call it 25, quits. They're going to want to squeeze every last penny out of a player that's done so well for them. Now they've got Ivan Toney, I think they're more inclined to sell. But one of the things I think Villa are quick to forget is that we have Scott Hogan on the books. At the moment. He's come back from Blues. He's earning about 40, 50 grand a week, as we know. It pains me to say that. But, we're talking about 70 grand a week is the speculation for Ollie Watkins. And, at Villa just aren't, I think, until we see players like Hogan off the books, it was reported by Alan Nixon yesterday that Blues want Scott Hogan on a permanent deal. And, mate, I'd drive him to St Andrews myself to see that one get over the line. But, it's not FIFA career mode. Do you know what I mean? I've seen other Villa fans saying, include Scott Hogan, 20 million Scott Hogan, see if Brentford accepts it. Mate, then if we put Scott Hogan, we're never going to get a chance to sign another Brentford player again. That's disrespectful. So look, we've just got to be a bit more mindful of what's going on. I mean, I went on his Wikipedia this morning to just read a bit more about Ollie Watkins, and it does say he's a Villa player. His Wikipedia this morning. I mean, and so Villa fans are clearly getting themselves very excited. But it's a deal that might take a little bit of time. It's just going to have to rumble on this one. And there clearly is a discrepancy in the fee or the wages or something like that. But look, the word from the chief executive, Christian Perslow, to people inside the club is that everything is going to plan. And I think we've just got to trust that.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about Benrahma as well, because it's a part of a great transfer saga, to say the least, involving West Ham and West Brom, letting Dianga go for like £12 million, which one is crazy. Again, when you're talking about market value, they're both wingers who have played in the Championship. I mean, it's clearly an issue on West Ham's end, because if this was any other player at any other club, he would easily be worth more than Said. But I believe West Ham had a £20 million bid rejected for Benrahma, and they've gone and let this young English prospect, which is important as well, go, who plays in the exact same position, who's played in the exact same league, and achieved more because he got promoted with West Brom. It seems crazy, but Brentford have rejected this bid for Benrahma. I think with Benrahma and Watkins, it's going to look like at least it's going to cost us 50 million for the both of us, and then there's always going to be add-ons with that. I know we've got to be patient, but with Benrahma, Tottenham are interested. Even Tottenham are interested in Watkins as well. I think it's with Benrahma, it's an important one. You've got to be in early with that, get the wages that he wants, because a Tottenham can come in, add an extra 10 grand a week, which we can't necessarily afford. He's got the luxury of staying in London where he already lives. There's so many factors to consider with these transfers. Do you think Benrahma is actually going to come, Dan? Because it kind of seems like this one where it's kind of, not destined to be, really.
Mate, I just want to sort of start by saying I don't actually think these players are the be-all and end-all. I'm not. There are things that I like a lot. I mean, you look at Ollie Watkins, 46 Championship games last season, 25 goals, all of them from open play. It's really impressive, and Benrahma was the same, mate. But I'm not convinced that either of them are big game players. I think if you look at the games where Brentford really needed those players to stand out post-lockdown, when they let things slip in the playoff final, I'm not really... I wasn't convinced by what I saw from either of them. And look, they're very... it's a very short amount of games to judge a player on. But every game is a big game for Villa. And, every time you play at Villa Park, there's an expectancy to win. And for a striker, an expectancy to score. And for such young players, that's a big, big weight to shoulder. And look, that's not me saying I don't think they'll do well or anything like that. But if we don't get the likes of Benrahma, if Watkins doesn't come, if these deals break down, there's no point having a meltdown about it. There are players out there that we can go and get for potentially less money that will go on and do just as well. I love both players. I think they're so fun. I would love to see both of them join the Villa. But as you said on Benrahma, things have fizzled out. And to be honest with you, if we didn't end up getting him as good as I'd be, he'd be such a fun player to watch. Unfortunately, I think if we're looking at purely how a player goes out and gets goals and assists and does the basics well, which our wingers fail to do, I think we can go out and find similar players on that. And so I don't think Benrahma will sign. I think Watkins is probably the more likely of the two. But, even that's been ticking along for a long old time at the moment, mate. And I think at some point, the further this goes on, I think Villa might have to set their sights elsewhere.
Yeah, and it's taking its time. For all we know, there's some brilliant scouting network being set up in Holland or in France or wherever as we speak, and we're trying to unearth these gems ourselves. So I guess we've got to be patient, and I think that is just the message of the podcast, really. Be patient. There's still a month left of the transfer window, pretty much, and we need these players in early. But it's a strange time, really, and this transfer window really is a buyer's market. It sounds strange to say, but the clubs who can afford to are buying players and signing players. You just got to look at Chelsea, man. I know we're saying it's not like career mode, but Jesus Christ, the signings they've been doing. But, again, you got to look at that. They've had 2 years to plan this. So it's no surprise that they've gone and signed 8 players, at good prices as well, it's got to be said. So we've just got to be patient and hope that, again, we can be joined, with a player signing to talk about on the podcast. Before we end as well, obviously we drew Burton Albion away in the second round of the Carabao Cup. Hopefully this fixture isn't cursed like the last one. Adoma missed the penalty, didn't he, at the Pirelli? It was a bit of a tragic Tuesday evening.
Yeah, to say the least.
It'd be nice to see another cup run, though, Dan, wouldn't it?
Yeah, man. Well, this is where, yeah. Shout out to Dom for all his faith in Keenan Davis, man. So we're talking yesterday, another one of our guys from Holte. And look, yeah, there's a lot of players that I'm excited to see. A lot of young players coming through at Villa. I want to see from more of the 23s that have been training with the squad recently, and stuff like that, and some of those reserve players. And I think it's a good opportunity for them to do that. And yeah, the cup run was great last season. I mean, Wembley was definitely the highlight of the season. I was so impressed by the performance that we put there. And you know, there's a certain magic about them, and it's a great place to start it. I mean, it's a shame that looks like we won't get any fans to go down, because it's always great, that short trip over to Burton, and they always seem to give us a good game as well. But it's a nice place to start things off. You don't want that first draw to be a tough one, do you? No. Away to the Premier League side or anything like that. So it's a nice game. We always seem to fare well against. So I'll say farewell. We always have a good game against Burton, and Keenan has scored against them. So maybe maybe he could go and get one there.
Hopefully, but speaking on the under-23s, obviously Villa played a fixture against Arsenal and beat them 3-2 with a goal from Douglas Luiz. Shout out to Dougie. But also a brace from Jacob Ramsey, and his little brother played in the game as well. Aaron Ramsey came on, so it's good to see. We did it without Mings, we did it without Grealish, we did it without McGinn, we did it without Horahan. And I'd like to point out that Arsenal had Aubameyang and Willian and David Luiz on the pitch. Maybe we won the game because David Luiz was on the pitch, but Ozil, of course, as well, he played. So, I know the pre-season. Let's not get carried away, but amazing news for Jacob Ramsey there. Done really well there. Hopefully, we can see him sort of in and around the team, especially if we're struggling for signing players. Let's not go for the loans of the Danny Drinkwaters who have little to no impact. Give the game time to these young lads, and let's see what they can do. Really, we've got a friendly coming up against United as well, apparently. So hopefully there's some good news out of that. Maybe we announce Romero on the pitch. That'd be a funny signing. But yeah, I mean, there's we just got to be patient. I keep saying it in this podcast, but my final note that I want to hit on is that we've got to trust the process. We're here. We had the 18th, highest wage bill in the Premier League, and we finished 17th. So, there's progress being made. Any final things from yourself, Dan?
No, just echoing the same, man. Thanks again for all of you guys for tuning in. Hopefully, mate. Hopefully, as I said, we can get another one of those signing videos out together. We do have a couple of weeks, also just over a week and a half until our first game, so there's still time to get things done. I trust the guys at the club to get this happen. I think everyone should do too.
Absolutely. So if you guys did enjoy the podcast, hit the like button and subscribe for more content. If you are listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, any other podcast provider, do follow, like, subscribe, whatever you can do on there. It really helps out. And yeah, subscribe for more. We're nearly at 2,200 subscribers, which is mad. We've had like 350 subscribers over the past month increase. So yeah, thank you guys again for your support. It's been absolutely amazing. Comment your thoughts below on Villa's business, who you'd like to see us sign. And, we'll reply to them all. That's what we like doing. So, yeah, if you enjoyed, subscribe for more and up the Villa.
Chester's essential. The fulfilling this got potential. It's a main man, a hero. He's the main leader of the gang. Chester. He's the main leader of the gang now. Chester.